When the sky falls silent, the world will not understand at first. The wind will stop, the birds will vanish, and even the oceans will hold their breath. The rhythm of life itself will hesitate, as if creation senses what is about to come. For centuries, humanity has lived under the sound of storms, believing that thunder was simply the voice of nature. But this thunder will be different. It will not come from the clouds. It will come from eternity itself. The silence before it will stretch longer than ever, an unbearable stillness that makes hearts tremble without knowing why. It will be the pause of heaven, the divine inhale before the final word is spoken. The prophets spoke of it long ago. They saw visions of skies torn open, of mountains trembling, of light swallowed by darkness. And now their words will come alive before the eyes of a generation that mocked their warnings. The heavens will not stay silent forever. When the silence breaks, it will not be with rain or lightning, but with the voice of God, echoing like thunder that never ends. That sound will pierce every nation, every city, every soul. It will not be heard by the ears alone. It will be felt in the bones, in the heart, in the spirit. The earth will shake, not from tectonic plates, but from truth finally revealed. People will look up, searching for explanations, but none will satisfy. The scientists will measure frequencies and magnetic waves. The philosophers will debate, and the leaders will declare calm. Yet deep within, all will know this is not of man. This is not weather. This is the final call. It will be the sound of heaven's judgment approaching, the same sound that once rolled over Sinai, when the voice of God made even the mountains tremble. But this time, it will not speak laws, it will speak endings. The cities will stand still. Traffic lights will freeze mid-cycle. Machines will stop, and an eerie stillness will descend over skyscrapers and slums alike. The sound that follows will be too vast for speakers, too deep for microphones. It will echo inside the soul, awakening what humanity buried long ago, the fear of God. The powerful will hide in their towers, the rich will lock themselves away, and the unbelieving will cover their ears. But the thunder of eternity cannot be silenced. It will chase them through walls and reach them in the dark, whispering a truth they cannot deny. The Creator has returned to speak, and yet this thunder will not be a cry of rage. It will be the sound of mercy fulfilled, of patience exhausted. For thousands of years, heaven has been silent not because it was absent, but because it was waiting. Every sunrise was grace, every breath was opportunity. The silence of God was never indifference. It was mercy, holding back justice. But now that mercy will give way to revelation. The voice that once called Adam in the garden will now call humanity at the edge of eternity. Where are you? That question will thunder across the cosmos once more, and there will be no place to hide. Mountains will crumble like sand before the breath of that sound. Oceans will rise in defiance, only to bow. The stars will dim, as if ashamed to shine before their Maker. The earth will feel the weight of every sin ever committed, and creation will groan as it did at the beginning. The thunder will roll through the deepest valleys and over the highest peaks, not as a storm, but as a proclamation. This is not destruction for destruction's sake. It is correction. It is the holy sound of justice being born. Some will fall to their knees, not from fear, but from understanding. They will recognize the voice that once called them to repent, to return, to love. Others will rage against it, shaking fists at the sky, demanding answers. But the heavens will not argue. The time for explanations will be gone. The time for decisions will have ended. This is not the God of negotiation. This is the God of fulfillment. His promises, his warnings, his prophecies, all converging in a single eternal sound. In the heart of that thunder, there will be light, a blinding, glorious light that will seem to split the universe in two. It will not be lightning as men know it, but the very glory of the Creator breaking through the veil between heaven and earth. And for the first time since Eden, humanity will see the reality it was never meant to forget. Angels will stand at the edges of the sky, silent sentinels witnessing the moment history ends and eternity begins. Their wings will not move. Their faces will shine with sorrow and awe. For even they know this is the hour long written, the day the heavens themselves feared. Those who once spoke lightly of prophecy will remember every word. The verses they mocked will burn in their minds like fire. There will be silence in heaven for half an hour, the scriptures said, and that silence will now echo across the earth. Half an hour that feels like eternity. Half an hour of divine anticipation. Then the thunder, the sound of completion. It will not be chaos, it will be harmony. The perfect, terrifying harmony of divine order, returning to a world that forgot who its author was. The faithful will not tremble. They will lift their heads and whisper prayers that are more tears than words. They will feel the thunder not as fear, but as fulfillment, the moment every promise becomes sight. In that sound they will hear love, not anger, justice, not vengeance. For the thunder is not the end for them, it is the beginning. It is the sound of the bridegroom returning for his bride, of the eternal kingdom descending to replace the dying one. It is the voice of "it is finished" spoken once more, but this time not from a cross, from the throne. And as the thunder fades, the world will not be the same. The sky will glow with colors unseen by human eyes. The air will hum with energy, as if creation itself is being rewritten. The righteous will shine with peace, and the wicked will vanish like shadows at dawn. Every nation will know beyond science and reason that this was not coincidence. The Lord of hosts has spoken. The silence of heaven was grace, the thunder is truth. So let the hearts of men tremble, not in terror, but in reverence. For the one who spoke the universe into existence has spoken again. And his voice, the thunder that ends the silence, carries both judgment and mercy in perfect measure. It will separate light from darkness, faith from fear, truth from deception. When that sound comes, it will not ask questions. It will answer them all. And those who still have breath now, in this moment before the silence, must choose. For the next time thunder rolls across the sky, it may not be the weather. It may be eternity calling. This is not myth. It is not poetry. It is prophecy, ancient, certain, and near. Heaven will fall silent, but only for a moment. And when it speaks again, every living thing will listen. Comment, "I am ready for his return," if your heart still hears the voice of heaven calling. When the thunder rolled across the heavens, it was not a sound that came from the clouds. It was a vibration that moved through the bones of creation itself, shaking mountains, oceans, and the very atoms of existence. It was as if the voice that had once said, "Let there be light," had spoken again. And this time it was not to create, but to call to account. Every echo carried memory. Every vibration carried judgment. The skies glowed as if set on fire from within, and yet no heat touched the earth. It was not destruction. It was revelation. The hidden became visible. The invisible became undeniable. Every secret, every motive, every shadow in the human heart was exposed under the roaring pulse of divine truth. In the great cities, people fell to their knees. Screens went dark, satellites failed, and every connection that bound man to his false sense of control was severed. The world that believed itself advanced suddenly returned to silence, a silence filled not with peace, but with awareness. Every structure of pride, every monument of arrogance, every voice that claimed independence from God, melted into insignificance. The thunder rolled, again and again, each wave deeper than the last. It was not mere sound, it was authority made audible. Some tried to explain it. Scientists spoke of cosmic frequencies and atmospheric anomalies. Leaders called for calm, their words trembling under the weight of fear they could not hide. But deep down they knew, all knew. This was the moment that had been written before the first empire rose, before the first star burned its light into the void. This was the sound of prophecy fulfilled. The thunder that shook the firmament was not chaos. It was the voice of the Creator reclaiming his creation. And yet, in that terror, there was beauty. Amid the trembling there was awe. It was not the end for all, it was the unveiling. The faithful lifted their faces toward the sky, not in dread, but in expectation. They knew that this was the hour when faith would become sight, when the whispers of prayer would become the roar of presence. For every tear shed in secret, for every moment of surrender, for every act of unseen love, the thunder was the answer. Across the earth, the thunder moved like a tide. It reached the deserts, the frozen poles, the islands hidden in the sea. It touched every nation, every tribe, every soul. The poor and the powerful, the righteous and the wicked, none were outside its reach. The earth itself seemed to breathe in rhythm with it, as though the planet recognized the sound of its maker. And in that harmony of power and peace, something shifted. The creation that had groaned for ages finally sighed in relief. Justice had awakened. Then the lightning followed, not the lightning that burns, but the lightning that reveals. It was not white or blue, but gold, pure and radiant. It did not strike randomly, but purposefully, touching places where corruption had reigned, illuminating temples built to false gods, shining upon palaces, capitals, and cathedrals alike. The lightning revealed truth without mercy. It showed every hidden thing, every deed done in the dark. It was as if the eyes of heaven had opened fully upon the earth, and there was nowhere left to hide. Some fell in repentance, crying out to the God they had ignored, begging for the mercy they once mocked. Others cursed the light, covering their faces, preferring the comfort of blindness to the pain of revelation. And still the thunder continued. It was not rage. It was rhythm, the heartbeat of eternity restoring its balance. The voice that spoke now did not need language. It was understood by all. Enough, it seemed to say. The time of waiting is over. The silence has ended. The oceans began to move with unnatural calm. The winds carried whispers of ancient hymns, melodies older than the stars. Angels, unseen but near, moved through the air like living flame, executing the decrees of heaven. In their presence even the storms bowed. The entire earth seemed to hold its breath, awaiting what would come next. And then came the light, not from the sky, but from beyond it. It was not sunlight, it was presence. It was love, but also power. The kind of light that does not illuminate, but defines. It separated the living from the dead, the awake from the asleep, the faithful from the deceived. In an instant it became clear that this was not the end of life, but the end of deception. The world, as it had been, built on illusions, noise, and pride, could no longer stand in the face of absolute truth. From horizon to horizon, a voice spoke. Not in thunder now, but in peace. It was the same voice that had called the stars by name, the same voice that had calmed the Sea of Galilee. It is time, it said. The night is over, the morning has come, and though no sun rose, light filled every heart that still believed. The faithful understood. The silence of heaven had ended because the King was near. Those who had long waited in obscurity felt strength rise within them. Their prayers had not been forgotten. Their faith had not been wasted. Every sacrifice, every act of endurance was now a crown. They were not spectators. They were witnesses. The world had laughed at them, silenced them, called them fanatics. But now, as the heavens unfolded in splendor, they were vindicated. Their tears became light, and their songs rose like incense before the throne that was now revealed. The nations were in disarray. Borders no longer mattered. Armies were powerless, and the economies of the world dissolved in a moment. The systems of men crumbled under a single truth. There is only one king, and his return was not theory, not metaphor, it was now. The thunder that once rolled now gave way to a great stillness. It was not peace as men understand it, it was the weight of holiness. The presence of God filled every molecule, and time itself seemed to stop to make room for eternity. Heaven and earth were no longer separated. The veil that divided the divine from the mortal had been torn completely. The prophets had seen it. The faithful had longed for it. And now it stood before all, the kingdom descending in light and power. Cities of glass faded into dust before it. Thrones of pride disintegrated into nothing. The only thing left standing was truth itself, radiant, alive and unstoppable, and then, for a moment, there was silence again. Not the silence of absence, but of reverence. All creation bowed. Every creature, every soul, every being felt it. The recognition of the one who had always been. The sky that once held storms now held glory. The thunder that once warned now comforted. The voice that once judged now invited. And out of that infinite stillness, a whisper spoke once more. Behold, I make all things new. This was not the end. It was the restoration. The sky did not fall silent forever. It had only paused to breathe before singing again. The thunder was not the destruction of the world, but its rebirth. Every sound, every tear, every storm had led to this. The return of the divine order, the reign of peace, the unbroken harmony between creator and creation. The heavens now roared not in wrath, but in worship, and as the world awakened under the new dawn of eternity, a single truth resonated in every heart that still beat with faith. The silence of heaven was mercy. The thunder of God is love. Comment, the King is coming if your soul is ready to hear the final call from heaven. The final echoes of thunder drifted like a fading storm, rolling away into the distance, but their power lingered in the air. It was not silence that followed, it was expectancy. The atmosphere pulsed with an unseen rhythm, as if the universe itself awaited its next command. Humanity stood divided, some trembling, others weeping, and a few standing in awe. The thunder had not destroyed, it had awakened. Now the unveiling began. Across the horizon, light gathered in ways the world had never seen. It was alive, intelligent, pure. It did not come from the sun or the stars, but from a source beyond creation itself. Every eye was drawn to it, every heart felt its pull. The light was not blinding, it was defining. It revealed truth as effortlessly as fire consumes darkness. There was no hiding, no pretending. The falsehoods of religion, the arrogance of science, the idols of self and power, each was stripped bare in a single instant. Every human realized that what they had worshipped was temporary, and what they had ignored was eternal. The mountains, once immovable, bowed like worshippers. The seas stilled. The sky itself seemed to fold inward, and from beyond it, something vast approached, something ancient, glorious, and holy. There was no question of what it was. It was the presence of the Creator, stepping once more into his creation. The sound that came next was not thunder nor voice, but something between. Music too vast for instruments, harmony too deep for comprehension. It was the sound of order returning, the sound of every atom rejoicing to be again in tune with its maker. Men and women everywhere dropped to their knees. Some cried for mercy, others cried out in praise. The faithful recognized the moment they had read of, prayed for, longed for, the revelation of the Son of Man. He did not descend in secret. He came clothed in light, and around him the heavens shimmered like glass on fire. His face shone with peace, yet his eyes carried the justice of ages. In his presence, the living and the dead found their meaning. For this was not a God of myths or symbols. It was the Word made visible, the Alpha and the Omega, standing before his creation. The earth could not contain his glory. Space itself seemed to bend, time seemed to still. The King had returned not as servant but as ruler. Every knee bowed. The kings of nations threw their crowns to the ground. The mighty were made small, the humble were lifted high. The voices of angels filled the atmosphere, their songs weaving through the fabric of existence. Holy, 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 they cried, not as ritual but as truth. As the only words vast enough to contain what they saw, the heavens opened further, revealing multitudes in white, souls redeemed, radiant with light that was not their own. They descended like morning mist, not to conquer but to reclaim. This was not invasion. It was restoration. The war was over before it began. The powers of darkness fled, their strength collapsing under the weight of holiness. Every lie that had ever been spoken, every deception that had enslaved hearts, was shattered by the brightness of his coming. The world, so long enslaved to fear, finally exhaled in freedom. Then, from the throne of light, his voice came, no longer as thunder but as command. Behold, the days of sorrow are ended. The time of peace has come. And at that word creation responded. The seas cleansed themselves. The forests grew again. The polluted skies cleared in an instant. The earth, long scarred by man's rebellion, began to heal. Rivers flowed with brilliance. Mountains bloomed with life. The lion and the lamb rested side by side. Children laughed where once there had been graves. Death had no dominion here. Yet even amid this restoration, there was separation. The light reached everywhere, but not everyone remained. Those who had chosen darkness found no place in the new creation. They faded, not burned, not punished in fire, but erased by their own refusal of light. It was not wrath that cast them out, it was incompatibility. They could not exist in truth, for their souls had married deception. And so, as dawn spread across the universe, their memory dissolved like smoke in the wind. The righteous shone brighter. Their bodies, once frail and mortal, were now immortal, reflections of the glory they had believed in without seeing. The tears they once shed were turned to jewels of light. They remembered pain, but it no longer hurt. They remembered death, but it no longer threatened. The king stood among them, not distant, not unreachable, but near, closer than their own breath. "Behold," he said, "I dwell among you." And the sound of that promise became the new heartbeat of creation. The heavens now sang in unison. What had begun with silence ended in symphony. From galaxies to grains of sand, everything vibrated with worship. The stars danced in patterns never before seen. The rivers clapped their waves against the shores, and the wind itself carried praises through the air. Eternity was not still, it was alive. The end had come, but it was not destruction. It was renewal. All that was old had passed away. All that was broken was made whole. The story was complete. On the new earth there were no temples, for God himself was the temple. There were no suns, for his glory was the light. The night was gone forever. The redeemed walked in unending day, speaking with angels, singing with creation. Their voices joined in the anthem that filled the cosmos. The Lord reigns, and his kingdom shall never end. And above them, the throne shone brighter than 1,000 dawns, its radiance unceasing, its love unmeasurable. Far beyond what the eyes could see, the universe expanded with joy. New stars were born, not from chaos, but from harmony. The sound of thunder, once feared, had become the pulse of heaven's heartbeat, the eternal reminder that even in judgment there was mercy, even in endings there was grace. The same thunder that once shook the earth now echoed as music through the halls of eternity. It was the rhythm of redemption, and in that infinite expanse a voice spoke once more, not as command, but as invitation. "Come!" The word moved through eternity like wind through trees. It called to every soul, every heart, every remnant of love across existence. "Come all who thirst, come all who waited. Come, for the silence has ended and the song has begun." And they came, billions upon billions, drawn by a light that never fades, a promise that never lies. The king stood at the center of it all, his hands still marked by sacrifice, yet radiant with power. Around him creation swirled in joy. Time bowed, eternity stretched. The story that began in a garden and passed through a cross had now reached its crescendo in a kingdom without end. There was no more thunder, because there was no more need for warning. Only music remained, pure, eternal, unbroken. And this is how it ends. Not with darkness, but with dawn. Not with silence, but with a song. The world that once trembled at the thunder now lives within it. The heavens no longer whisper, they sing. The Creator walks once more among his creation, and all things are new. If you still hear the echo of that final thunder calling your soul, do not turn away. The silence of heaven was grace. The thunder was truth. But the invitation, that still remains. Comment, "I am ready for the new dawn," if your heart longs for his kingdom to come.